Since 2016, the major rental car company Hertz has reported about 3,400 rental car thefts each and every year, but hundreds of their customers are telling the Shade Room that in fact they are actually losing their rental car agreements, making it seem like these cars are stolen, and then relying on police to go find them. In Atlanta, this man pulled over on the highway, guns drawn. Backwards. In Oklahoma City, this former federal officer detained at a gas station. He had just picked up a rental car from Hertz an hour earlier.
Are you in that Nissan with
Yes, sir.
Body camera video obtained by CBS News. It shows the officer looking over the rental agreement.
I'm trying to see where the actual car is that shows this specific car.
Turns out the car was reported stolen 9 months before. Hertz claimed that they notified police.
What the?
But it was still listed as stolen in the National Police Database.
Grand theft auto is a real charge. It's a felony charge. And it means that when you file that police report, you're going to have a 5-car squad with guns drawn, putting guns, semi-automatic guns to people's heads.
Now, the reason I keep showing this is because this is an actual arrest being made because of a stolen car. What this attorney is saying is that it's usually much, much worse than this.
Francis Malafie is the attorney representing close to 300 people who filed lawsuits against Hertz in the last 6 years, most of them Black.
Hertz is not correcting their police reports, and they're falsifying payment information, falsifying contacts with the renter.
It was just horrible.
Chanterelle Higgs, she lives in Miami, and she says that she called Hertz to extend her rental agreement 3 separate times back in 2019. This receipt says it was due March 29th.
I would speak to the representative and they would extend it, and then they would charge my card.
She got it extended another week. Court records reportedly showing text messages between her and a Hertz representative on April 9th, one day before she was supposed to finally return the car. A customer service representative in those text messages saying, quote, "Call me as soon as you get to the location to return this unit. I will need to call the location you are at to get this stopped." Higgs responds, "It will be at the Fort Lauderdale location." The representative then responds saying, quote, "Call me when you are there. They do not answer their phone," end quote. But hours later, Higgs was shocked when she stopped to get pizza with her godmother.
And next thing you know, I see a police car pulled in front, and I see other cars pulled in behind. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then he called my name, and I was like, he's like, Chanterelle Higgs? And I'm like, yes. He was like, do you know this vehicle is stolen? And I was like, no, this is a rental.
She says she showed the police the agreement, but it was not enough.
I ended up getting arrested that day. And the officer says, the only reason why we did not draw our guns is because when he looked at me and he was speaking to me, he can tell I had no clue about what was going on.
Higgs would spend the next 37 days in jail because Hertz pursued felony fraud and theft charges.
Just imagine her and her godmother going through this. Just sad.
In that time, she says that she lost her home and missed out from graduating nursing school. She also had 2 kids at home.
I had to sit in jail and try to figure out what I was going to do because they just was not hearing it. They were only set on, well, Hertz said you stole this car, so this is what it is.
She says she pled guilty because she could not spend another day in jail. She was put on probation and forced to wear an ankle monitor.
Never been in trouble, just living their life. I'm just living my life, enjoying life.
Julius Burnside says he too took a plea deal when he was arrested in Gwinnett County near Atlanta back in 2019, days after he dropped off his rental on the due date.
Yes, you heard that right. On the due date.
It's so much anger and rage because it's like I'm stuck here for something I paid for. You know, and if it wasn't for my kids, I would have never signed a plea deal. I still would have probably been sitting in jail.
You're saying that Hertz is using the police to repo their cars on their customers' backs. Is that
That's
what you're
right? Absolutely. And you know, it can't, no corporation in America acts or conducts themselves this way. No other rental car company acts or conducts themselves this way. Only Hertz.
Malafie says that Hertz has been doing this for years. He says it's cheaper for the company to use police agencies to track down cars they've mistraced than spend the money to update their computer systems.
They have computer systems that are outdated. The locations don't talk to headquarters. they don't reconcile their information. So oftentimes, if you extend a rental, if you exchange a rental, if you have a flat tire, it won't get processed properly.
Why don't you think Hertz would change their practices?
I think there hasn't been enough outcry.
Until now. Are law enforcement starting to catch on?
So, you know, what's nice is that we do have certain law enforcement. I think Louisville stopped taking Hertz theft reports because they were just unverified and they couldn't rely on them. So big credit to them. I also know Indianapolis experienced issues where they started being skeptical of Hertz's police reports for theft. I also know Southern California and also Colorado. There was 2 agencies there. We are seeing prosecutors recognizing this is a nationwide systemic issue, and they're starting to drop these cases because Hertz doesn't do a damn thing after the person gets thrown into the system. Nothing at all.
Hertz has denied these business practices, and in previous statements they've said in part, quote, that alerting the authorities is always a last resort. It's sometimes necessary after all options have been exhausted to retrieve a vehicle from a customer who has refused to return it, isn't responding, and isn't continuing payment. Alerting the authorities typically only happens at the end of an extensive multi-week process that includes phone calls, texts, emails, certified letters asking the customer to return the vehicle. It is important to note that many of these cases have since been dismissed, some customers even receiving settlements. One woman reportedly receiving a $100,000 settlement from Hertz. But they do say that it does not erase the trauma that this has caused them and the challenge of even getting a job with the stain of a felony.
In today's NBC5 Responds, rented, then arrested. Why some customers of car rental giant Hertz now accuse it of making egregious mistakes, which they say led to false arrests.
Their story is now getting the attention of lawmakers who are demanding answers. Here's Lisa Parker.
When Pat Calhoun's car needed some serious work.
What we thought was going to be a few days of work ended up taking 40 days.
He says he was comfortable with his car maker's offer to get him a Hertz rental.
I've used Hertz for many years.
He got the keys to a Chevy Spark in what he thought was an open-ended contract.
They were putting a hold on my credit card every day, so they had a valid credit card as well.
But a month into that rental, Pat says, a repo man showed up at his home.
Knocking on the door saying, I want the keys, or I'm just going to take the car and charge you for the keys.
Hertz labeled Pat's rental as stolen, even after he says the company called him to confirm he still needed it. When Hertz found it parked right at his house, they towed it, then sent him the bill.
It was a charge for $1,000 for the repo man.
Just north of $1,000 for towing. Pat told our Bay Area response team he doesn't think he owes Hertz a penny.
They basically let me know that I am on the hook for paying. There's nothing that they can do.
For towing a car with a repo man that you had rightfully rented.
Correct.
After NBC inquired, the company agreed to issue Pat Calhoun a refund. If his case sounds extreme, there's more where that came from. Former Hertz customers, more than 200 now suing, many who claim false arrest after they say Hertz incorrectly labeled their rentals as stolen. Testimonials on this law firm's website share harrowing examples, like Howard Junius's story.
I did not steal the vehicle. The vehicle was fully paid for. I was in jail for 60 days.
The charges against Howard were ultimately dismissed. As the list of falsely arrested or accused customers grew,
the harm is real and enduring.
U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal wrote the company this letter, accusing it of abysmal record keeping at best.
The magnitude of incompetence here is eye-popping because it is nationwide.
Hertz CEO Stephen Scher reacted to those allegations on CNBC this week.
It's not acceptable to Hertz to have any customer, a single customer, sort of caught up in some of what's happened. We will do right where our customers have been negatively affected, and I'm looking to resolve that very, very quickly.
Now, if the rental giant does not step up in a significant way to correct its alleged mistakes, Senator Blumenthal says look for more federal heat, including from the Federal Trade Commission, soon.
We will resort to any action available, both civil and possibly criminal, because this company has to do the right thing.
In a statement, Hertz says the lawyers involved in that lawsuit we mentioned have a track record of making baseless claims, and that some of the customers involved were overdue on returning their rentals by weeks.
Again, to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
I've done several videos about Hertz lately. The problem is if you rent a car for Hertz, there's a chance that you might get arrested for auto theft because Hertz might report that car stolen or may have reported it stolen before they even rented it to you. New Hertz CEO says customer false arrests are not acceptable. The guy in charge of the company now says that what happened was wrong and they're going to try to keep it from happening again. So, in other words, it did happen. So from Inc.com, story written by Minda Zetlin, Stephen Scher, the new CEO, says the company will do right by affected customers very, very quickly. The new Hertz CEO, Stephen Scher, has publicly admitted for the first time that customers have been arrested for driving cars they rented. It's not acceptable to Hertz to have any customer, a single customer, sort of caught up in some of what's happened, Scher told CNBC on Monday, about a month after starting his new job. This admission is a huge change for Hertz, to say the least. For more than a decade, the company has fought these claims in various courts, arguing that any customer arrests are the customer's own fault. Here's the quote. The vast majority of these cases involve renters who were many weeks or months overdue returning vehicles and who stopped communicating with us well beyond the scheduled date. That's what Hertz told Inc.com last year. Situations where vehicles are reported to the authorities are very rare and happen only after exhaustive attempts to reach the customer. And just so you know, that representative went on to disparage the attorneys who were representing the plaintiffs who were filing claims for false arrest and the lawsuits against Hertz. So they just basically said, look, it didn't happen, it's their fault, and by the way, their attorneys are bad people. What about customers who are still being prosecuted today? Scher's statement that the company withdraws stolen car reports once the cars are found is demonstrably false, according to one attorney representing the customers. Hertz has always said that it is not empowered to withdraw police reports. We have their letters saying this to our clients as late as December of 2021. Scher's statement completely glosses over the severity and the harm visited upon so many people, and people still stuck in the system. That's the attorney speaking. So far, Hertz doesn't seem to have withdrawn its stolen car reports on about 40 customers who are currently facing prosecution. So there are 40 customers right now who are in the process of being prosecuted, despite the fact that Hertz says, oh, we withdraw the police reports when we figure out there's a problem. Will customers keep getting arrested? This is the most important question for anyone thinking about renting from Hertz. Again, like I said, live dangerously if you want to. We've changed our policies to avoid the possibility of this happening, Scher told CNBC. That sounds like a positive step, but he didn't specify what they had done to keep it from happening or what policies led to the arrests in the first place. Since Hertz is in the middle of a highly public legal battle stemming from the arrests, it's easy to see why Scher might not be able to divulge details of the company's policies or how they may have changed under his leadership, but without those specifics, it's tough to predict whether the false arrests really have ended for good. Like the dozens of customers still facing possible jail time, we might just have to wait and see.
So what's my take on this? Do I believe that Hertz and other rental car companies should have the right to report cars stolen after doing what they can to get customers to bring them back? Of course I do, if the car is actually stolen. However, there's a big problem when customers call in to have their rental contracts suspended and give Hertz permission to put the charges on their credit card. Then the charge goes through and the car is still reported stolen. And even in cases where the charges were declined for whatever reason, they opted for filing police reports over simply calling the customers and working it out because, according to reports, the customers had no idea that the charges didn't go through until it was too late. Then you have the people who got arrested right after renting the car. Why? Because the reports were made against prior renters, but they never notified the police after recovering the cars. This is definitely the case with the guy who was arrested the day he rented the car, although the car had been reported stolen 9 months earlier. Now just imagine how many times Hertz rented that car out in that amount of time. In the end, all of this is Hertz's fault. However, they decide to blame everyone but themselves. They went from blaming the cops to the plaintiff's attorneys, which is all ridiculous. It's not the job of the police to go around repossessing cars for Hertz when these cars are sitting right there on their lots being rented by customers over and over again. And how dare they try to throw the attorneys under the bus? That's just ridiculous. Not to mention claiming that they had no right to rescind police reports related to stolen cars is absolutely absurd. That's like saying that once a car is reported stolen, it can never be driven again. Because if someone steals my car, whether the police find it or I find it myself, it needs to come off the stolen cars list immediately, or else I can never drive it again. You feel what I'm saying? The only positive light to this is that this new CEO is now being strong-armed into making some moves. He finally acknowledged that this is happening, saying, quote, "The customer's false arrests are not acceptable," end quote. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Spicey out.